Hello, I'm Billy Fenning. I'm the senior leader here at All Nations Christian Centre. And here is my thought for the week. My thoughts this week turn to Psalm 42. The psalm is an amazing psalm because it reflects David in his time when he was facing lockdown. His son Absalom had rebelled against him. His friends, his family were in rebellion, and David was now leaving Jerusalem. So Psalm 42 and Psalm 3 is the background of David's period of lockdown. And David cried out in the midst of anxiety and fear, in the midst of a situation that was desperate for him. He cried out, "Oh, why are you cast down, O my soul? Why are you disquiet within me?" David was going through a hard time, and maybe you are going through a period of frustration, maybe a period of fear and anxiety, confusion. How long is this lockdown going to last? But Psalm 42 takes us into a world where God seems to be distant. But in the midst of it all, David cries out that he will thirst for the living God. Listen to what he says. He said, "As the deer pants for the water brooks, so pants my soul for you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God." So here in the midst of his lockdown, in the midst of rejection from his family and his friends, David was able to long and thirst for God. He said, "When shall I come and appear before God? My tears have been my food day and night." You see, David was longing for that day when he could go back to Jerusalem, when he could worship at Jerusalem. And then he says in verse 3, he said, "While they continually say to me, 'Where is your God?'" His enemies were taunting him. "Where is your God? I thought you were king. I thought God was with you." And in the midst of his valley, in the midst of his darkness, David's enemies took the opportunity to attack him. "Where is your God in the midst of all this?" And then David said, "When I remembered these things, I poured out my soul within me. For I used to go with the multitude." He used to go to the temple. He thought of the time when he met with his friends and they went to the temple to worship. And maybe, yes, we're enjoying our online activities and we're enjoying our online service, but you still miss coming and here physically to church and meeting with the multitude. David said, "I went with them to the house of God and with the voice of joy and praise." And he said, "Why are you cast down, O my soul?" But David did something that brought peace and joy in the midst of his despair. Instead of listening to his enemies, David started talking to himself. And here is the key if we are going to know peace in our hearts and joy in our hearts. When you wake up in the morning, someone is talking to you. It's not yourself. Someone is saying, "It's going to be a gloomy day. Oh, you're not important. Who are you? You're not significant." And so you lead a life of negativity and it spirals out of control because you allow your enemy to talk to you. But don't listen to your enemy. Instead, start preaching to yourself. Many of you want to be preachers. Well, why don't you? Why don't you start preaching to yourself? Because this is what David said. David said, "Why are you cast down, O my soul? Why? Hope in God, for I will yet praise Him." And here's the key in the midst of lockdown, maybe in the midst of confusion, maybe in the midst of your gloom and darkness. Start preaching to yourself. Talk to yourself. Talk to yourself about the good things God has done for you. Talk about the provisions God has made for you in life. Start preaching to yourself the goodness and the grace of God that follows you every day of your life. That is my thought for this week. God bless you.